I'm Dr. Joey Fawcett, coaching you to work faith positive and increase your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Do this when you're invisible at work. Hagar answered God by name, praying to the God who spoke to her, "You're the God who sees me. Yes, he saw me, and then I saw him." Does it ever seem like you're invisible at work? Nobody sees you, much less appreciates you and your work. Exit surveys of persons who leave a company discovered they're getting away from a leader who doesn't appreciate them, or worse. It's not the work they're leaving, it's the leader. These persons are invisible to that leader. Hagar worked for Sarah, Abram's wife, the same Sarah and Abram that changed zip codes at God's direction. God promised in exchange they would be parents to a great nation. Only the promise wasn't coming true, and they were getting old, worn out, like in their 90s. So Abram and Sarah took matters into their own hands. Sarah told Hagar to get in bed with Abram and help God out because obviously the divine one had forgotten. So Hagar got pregnant and Sarah got jealous. That's when Hagar became invisible. Sound familiar? Your leader or manager tells you to do something and you do it, and it's never quite good enough, or you do too good a job and he's jealous. You're underappreciated, invisible. So what do you do next? Follow Hagar's example. Remember, God sees you. You assume no one sees you when you're invisible, that your cloaking extends to everyone at work, like your coworkers, and even includes God. Hagar remembers that she matters to God when God speaks. She remembers that God wants an intimate relationship with her and cares about every little detail of her heart's desire, even if Sarah doesn't. When you're invisible at work, remind yourself that God always sees you. God created you with a divine design that's your unique contribution to make through your work. God calls you to work with excellence to the best of your ability, and that's when your work becomes worship. God sees you regardless of how your leader or coworkers look right through you. So remind yourself daily, God sees me, I am visible. Secondly, remember God shows you. Hagar prays to the God who spoke to her. God shows Hagar she is visible by speaking to her. Her prayer is a response to God's words. God reaches out to Hagar first. When you're invisible at work, even as you remember God sees you, it's so easy to wonder if he really does. I mean, the world's chaos and confusion drown out how you think about your faith-positive work, right? And yet the God you work for shows you he sees you by speaking to you. The creator God, after all, spoke and everything was created. The divine designer spoke into the chaos and order emerged. And God speaks into your work today above the roar of your leaders and coworkers to show you that you are visible. So remind yourself daily, God shows me I am visible. Thirdly, remember God secures you. God took care of Hagar even when Sarah didn't. The scriptures say that her son was born and Abram was to name him Ishmael, which means God hears you and God answers. Despite Sarah's blindness to Hagar, God sends Abram to stand in the gap. Protection and provision emerge from a different leader. God secures Hagar. God secures you in your work when you seem invisible. Ever notice how God sends someone else to you when those around you go blind to you? God gets the divine work done regardless. If your leader or teammates self-select to exclude themselves from what God's doing, they have the freedom to do so to their own detriment. You, on the other hand, have another choice. You can choose to see and to speak to the God who sees and speaks to you, even when those with whom you work act otherwise. God protects and provides for you, sometimes with a new leader or team, other times with a new position in a different company. So remind yourself daily, God sees me when I'm invisible, speaks to me when I'm invisible, and secures me with protection and provision when I'm invisible. Follow Hagar's example when you're invisible at work and increase your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more as you work faith positive, even in a negative world. Coaching you to work faith positive, I'm Dr. Joey Fawcett.
Catch every episode of Faith Positive TV when you subscribe to the Faith Positive YouTube channel.